Hello there, Brendan Wrongway Corrigan here with Wrongway's Columbia Cast, a brother podcast to what was my regular The Columbia Cast in association with Semana Magazine. As Semana has ceased podcast production for the foreseeable future due to the threat of COVID-19, I've taken the step of setting up this, what we'll call an emergency podcast. We are, of course, going through an extraordinary, unprecedented moment in our history. When and how all this coronavirus inflicted pain and hardship will end is anyone's guess at this remove. In this episode, however, we aim to give you answers and greater clarity about a pandemic that looks set to define the 21st century for humankind from somebody at its very centre. Coronavirus, or SARS-CoV-2, to give you your official name. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us during what we can only imagine is a very busy period for you.
Indeed. No, and listen, Brendan, thank you so much for having me on. And I'm glad to be here. And just before we go on, just so you know that you give me the name coronavirus, but please call me Alan. Okay, that's what I go by.
Or we can call you Alan. There almost seems like a song in that. By the way, as well, there might be a little bit of confusion in terms of your gender, and obviously that's a big issue these days. So do you have a preferred gender pronoun?
Not necessarily a pronoun. I do identify as non-binary, and probably more so in the bracket of a trigender. I'd be male, female, or virus. Maybe you can call me, I don't know, Zay. It depends. I have no preference. I won't get insulted.
Well, for the moment, we'll call you Al.
Exactly. Yeah. Please call me Al.
And there is a song in that. But I guess the problem, and apologies from the humankind as well. This is what you get, I guess, when you get a bunch of scientists christen you, or to be more PC, I better not use the christen, but scientists to give you a name. So we apologize for that.
That's not a problem. Listen, I understand.
What we really want to know, first of all, a little bit of your background, because just kind of come on top of us in this world all of a sudden, and we know nothing about you. So is it true that you are from China? I mean, Donald Trump likes to call you the Chinese virus. Or what exactly is your background?
Like, I don't identify being from anywhere. If you want, like, I'm like anybody else. I go down rabbit holes. I read about conspiracy theories and what I am. I kind of laugh at it. I think it's thrown out. Some things are thrown out there like I'm some sort of 5G bioweapon. These kind of things like they're thrown around. But I'm not from a specific country. I'm from a lab, and that's all. That's all I am from. I'm from a lab. I just happened to be in China at the time. I have been bouncing around for a while. I've just been looking to kind of stretch my wings. I don't really exactly have wings. I'm looking to stretch out, see the world. So I'm not Chinese as such. I'm omnipotent, or if that's the word that you use in English.
Well, you're maybe one of these new citizens of the world. Put it that way. Would that be true?
Pretty much, yes. Exactly. I don't like to identify. I probably originated from China, but I wouldn't be Chinese.
And was it always your plans? Because you said you originated from China. Was it always your plans then to go to the four corners of the world, which of course you practically are now?
I'm like any living organism, human being, whatever it is. Like it comes at a time in my development that I like to see the world. I'm sure, I don't know, Brendan, where you're from. I believe is it Ireland, but you're now in Colombia. Like at some stage in your life, you were like, okay, I need to get out of here. I need to travel the world. And it's basically no different to us. A virus.
Well, okay. And I don't want to spend too much time in terms of your origins. I mean, what's more important for humankind at the moment is the damage that you have inflicted and are inflicting on us.
Yes.
I mean, okay, you're laughing. But I mean, as I said in the intro, these are unprecedented times. You're going to define, I think, humankind for the next century, and if not more. How frightened should we be of you? Because there are some people, and I have to say I'm a bit like this myself, who say that you're no Spanish flu, that we shouldn't be too worried about how far you will go in terms of your rate of deaths and the harm you're causing on the planet. So where do you see yourself going with this? Are you happy with what you've achieved so far? Are you only getting started?
Well, I think there's an assumption out there that I'm meant to cause harm. Like I'm like any other living organism. I grow, I mature. In my case, I just want to get out there and see the world. Like, okay, there's been collateral damage along the way. It completely was not my intention. If you were to blame anybody for what these deaths you call them, I blame the way people are living their lives. Personally, like if you listen, you're a young, healthy man. Well, relatively young. what it must be mid 30s. I can see what you're wearing as well, like for protective gear, but it's not. I could go close to you. I could talk to you. I don't think it's going to cause you any harm because you keep yourself in. You keep yourself healthy. I'm sure you look like a guy who goes for runs. You eat healthy. I'm gonna have no effect on you. It's these people, these what do you call them, obese, the bigger people. You're diabetics. It's where they've lived their life for years in a very unhealthy manner, and these are being affected. That is not my fault. I think what's happening is the blame is being put on me for causing this relatively high mortality rate in comparison to other viruses. But it's generally people living unhealthy lives. Like I know, okay, listen, there's elderly people there. That was going to happen. Again, not what I wanted to happen, but it happens. They're not necessarily living an unhealthy life, but listen, I hold my hands up. That's my fault. But other people that are being left in my wake, listen, what can I do? I can't teach them how to live their life. Maybe this could be a valuable lesson that people will use this as a positive. So once I finish my world travel, and listen, I have a few countries to visit, a few towns and countries to visit, specifically in South America and Africa. I'm going to get those probably towards the end of November. But once I get around and I go again, I think the human race should look at this as a positive.
Well, I want to come
There's
back to that
the mentality
yeah,
that it's like,
in a second in terms
okay, go on.
of how humans should react to you, and as you say, we're giving you maybe an easier route to travel around the world by our actions. But you talked about going to other countries. Is there any truth in the rumor that some of us would like to believe that you don't like hot, humid weather and you don't thrive there? You prefer the cooler climates. Is that true?
I have lived in a relatively cool temperature all my life. I don't know, like, and if you look back, it was actually November 23rd. I know it's gone out that it's been early December, but it was November 23rd when I first decided to get around, I suppose, as much as I could. From that, I've always been in cool temperatures. Now I have kind of spread into warmer climates, and it's uncomfortable, a bit more uncomfortable than I would hope, but it's not something like I could get used to it. It's like anything, I could adapt. It's just that I'm used to cold, and like this is, again, it's no. I don't want to give any false hope, as you mentioned. I might, finish my world travel in around end of April, May, when things are starting to heat up. Because as you know, I'm more focused on the northern hemisphere at the moment, where the temperatures are ranging, in around anything up to 15 degrees Celsius. I'm much more comfortable with. Yes, I feel the heat, for
Well,
want of a better
yeah,
expression, but
those who think they know you better than than maybe you know yourself say that you don't like the heat because you've got an oily skin condition, and the heat
ah,
doesn't
yes, yeah.
help with that.
I've seen those YouTube videos.
Does that upset you though? To that kind of stuff that you see on social
it
media, people making fun of you, while as you say, you're just trying to to go about your
Listen,
business.
don't listen. Okay. This is, I suppose, it is. I'm seeing all these memes. And these are just what we call them. Like keyboard warriors. They're looking at there's images of me and the destruction I'm causing. They're making not very light of it, I suppose. It's kind of insulting at times. There's very hurtful images that I'm not comfortable with. I don't like to be put in that kind of light. But listen, to be honest, don't get me wrong. You know, I laugh along with the rest of the people. They're quite funny. But listen,
You have a
they
sense
are
of
great
humor.
fun. I do have a sense of humor. They're great fun. It does cut a bit close to the bone, to be perfectly honest. Um,
But
but listen,
you don't have a backbone though, do you? And you're a bit of a bully though, because as you were saying earlier, there are certain people that you kind of prefer to hang around and stick around with, and they tend to
mhm.
be older, vulnerable people. Others would say, "Well, hey, why don't you come and have a go with me and hang around with me for a while and see how you get on?" So, is it true that you're a bit of a bully?
I've infected a lot more people than you would think, or what the figures would believe. From what I can see, like, listen, I catch Sky News mostly. I suppose I catch Sky News. I catch Trump's press conferences. Very funny, by the way. But I see the numbers. I see the numbers being posted. That is, it's not even 1/10 of the real numbers. I've infected so many people this side of Christmas in particular. It's not even registered. For example, Brendan, I haven't affected you, but if I did, you wouldn't even know it. You're healthy. Going back to my earlier answer, it's not my fault that some people live their life in a way that maybe it's not the healthiest, way to live their life. These people are kind of lounging around. It's kind of that modern kind of way of living life. You've seen the movie Wall-E. You see what human beings can become, where they basically they can't fend for themselves anymore. Everything is done for them. They go around, they waddle around, they're fat, they're eating sodas, they're eating burgers, they're watching TV. Like this, it's not my fault that these guys are vulnerable. These guys are vulnerable because of the way they live their life. Diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure. Listen, that's not my fault. The fact these guys will get my symptoms a bit more harshly than say yourself. Okay,
Okay. But as far as you're concerned,
that
you're not picky, you're not
I'm not
indiscriminate.
picking.
Yeah.
No, I'm not picking on anybody. I've touched a lot of people. Again, for want of a better
Yeah.
expression. Um,
But
Finding it harder. I'll be honest. I'm finding it harder. Kind of. I went off like a jet engine. I'm slowing down. I'm at a snail's pace now. I'm looking where to visit next, but my options are quite limited. So I will not discriminate, and I haven't discriminated, and I will go to wherever the next person will bring me.
yeah, well, okay, you mentioned about that you went off on a bit of a wildfire at the start, but is it true that maybe, and China perhaps better than most, that they're not being completely honest with us in China in terms of how far you got around that country?
From what I can see in the figures, yes. There's this. What's that town that I mentioned earlier? Wuhan, they
Wuhan?
call it.
Yeah.
Um, Wuhan. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's over 30 million people in Wuhan. I did Wuhan 3 times over. Okay, I made sure I visit every little nook and cranny, every back alley, every wet market, every liquor store, every bar. I went around. I it was my first time out of the lab, and I didn't realize there was such a big world out there until popped into a few bars. I found a few hosts. I was able to understand that there was a bigger world out there. Travel. I saw things on the TV from what the country you call America. I said, listen, I'd love to go there. Even Europe. These this and I've been on. I said I've been Wuhan 3 or 4 times now in terms of I wanted to make sure that I knew where I was going next. If the Chinese are coming out with numbers, what is it, 80,000 cases? There's definitely something incorrect there. I
Okay.
have at least 10 times more people that I have touched,
But yeah, but
as you say.
okay.
Not in a creepy.
Yeah.
I've touched some kids, but it's not. I mean, never mind.
We better not go down that road. Yeah, that might get you into trouble. I mean, we could have you in the dock. We could have you in the dock for that one. But okay, let's leave that aside. Alan, as we now realize is your name.
Al, listen, Al.
Or
Yeah,
Al is
whatever.
fine.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
you know
But I
whatever.
mean, you talked about lots of cases, but then there are other people again, those who maybe are I won't say non believers, but they want to think that you're really nothing, and we're as a society we're getting too worked up about you, and that in terms of the deaths, which on the great scheme of thing at the moment are still pretty small compared to one of your
Mm.
ancestors, I believe, Spanish flu, and if we talk about the bubonic plague, which I'm sure you've read about them in your time growing up, but in
No, no.
terms of
Listen, I know these guys. We have a WhatsApp group. If you're talking with Spanish flu, that'll be Marcus.
okay, and what does Spanish flu say about your or Marcus then? I mean, about your kind of relatively low impact in terms of deaths, although your
Well,
massive impact in terms of economic and way of life disruption.
listen. Marcus knows it's different times. Like back in 1918, there was some war going on, from what I understand
But
and what
yeah,
I've read.
we call it World War One or
Um,
the Great War as it was known at
yeah,
the time.
exactly. So there's a lot of focus was on World War One at the time. So from what I understand, like he did the rounds. It must have been months you call March and April. He killed a handful of people, but then he came back with a vengeance. I think people were just unprepared, and it was more the health system. I would have killed a lot more people at this stage. Indirectly, I'd like to say, if the health system wasn't as good as it is. Like back then, you had a lot of your health professionals were tending to the wounded, and they were out at war themselves. So when Marcus kind of did his rounds, when he spread his wings back in 1918, it had more of a devastating effect by the numbers, but we do have a bit of banter on WhatsApp that I'm actually a bit stronger than he is. But listen, I think it's just a sign of the times. It's and
So
you
are
you
you
go back
saying
to
can we get this on the record now that you're going to last a bit longer than Marcus, or AKA Spanish
I
flu?
won't kill as many people because, again, there's things in place now that there wasn't in place 100
Well, I'm
years
not on
ago.
about deaths. I mean, are you just going to be around and maybe it's a new paradigm? You are going to be a new paradigm that we need to accept in terms of human illnesses. Is that what you were saying? Is that what you were telling me?
That's really up to me. Like you talk about people kind of, was I hurt by how I was being portrayed in the media? And as I said, I wasn't, but Marcus was. This is why you haven't seen him since. He has, like, if you think about it, I think was it 50 million died out of 500 million infected. Like, he's never lived that down. He's hidden away now. He's back in the lab. You won't see him again. Although there has been talk on our WhatsApp group that he might be tempted to come out of retirement because he's slightly jealous. There's a bit of banter going around there around
So,
that
so
I'm
in a
more
sense, are you?
popular.
Yeah,
But
are you giving us a little bit of an introduction to what might come down the
listen,
line?
I don't want to create any sort of mass hysteria because listen, the Spanish flu numbers, and you know yourself, you've seen them. They're quite scary in comparison. But if Spanish flu come out nowadays, it'll be like a mild cold, like a common cold, slight flu.
Okay, but
It's just a human race can deal with that.
okay, fair enough. So we're talking
But
about
he could,
something that
yeah,
happened over 100 years ago. But let's talk
yeah,
about,
yeah,
about the influenza, the common flu.
yeah,
Again, some people who aren't really buying into how effective perhaps you are, or don't believe in you as this destructive force. And I know you don't buy those kind of words, but I'm using the words that we use
yeah.
as humans. But they would say influenza is far worse, still is anyway at this moment in time, a greater concern. Are those people wrong from the way you look at it? And by
Um,
the way, what do you call influenza if he's in your WhatsApp group?
the way it works in our WhatsApp, it's a bit like your football divisions. The strongest flus, we all have our own WhatsApp group. We have, as I said, Marcus here, wrong. We have Chow, which is be SARS. I know he's quite young. Stephen the Black Death, again, someone who's been in kind of hiding for quite some time because, again, a lot of destruction, similar to Spanish flu, and also Ali, which is our MERS virus. No one really talks to him, to be perfectly honest. But there is like a subset or a division one, and I know influenza's in there. I don't really have much contact, to be perfectly honest. I
So
do know that
you don't rate influenza then?
no, 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 not at
I
all, not
mean,
at all.
but
Listen, it's
you frequent different establishments, so you wouldn't really be seeing hanging around with them.
I might acknowledge him from a distance. I I know what he's up to. He's a bit more crafty, let's say, than I am.
Because I
I'm
mean,
not. Again, I'm not trying. Go on.
yeah, but looking at it from the untrained eye, I mean, influenza would seem to affect more people on a normal year.
Yeah, there's variables there. Listen. I understand the panic that's going on with myself at the moment. It's come in a very short period of time. Everybody's going to get affected. Maybe you can give me some experience on the flu. I'm sure you've had the flu. It's been doing the rounds for quite some time now, but you probably only had it maybe once every 7 or 8 years. Am
Yeah,
I right?
actually, I can't remember the last time I had the flu, so touch wood that I don't get it.
It's spread out, I suppose. Like not everyone, like the deaths will be, I suppose I don't know the actual comparison between flu and what you call a COVID-19. I don't know the comparisons and the death rates, but I think the panic is there around. I suppose nobody is immune. Nobody can. There's no vaccinations, I believe you call them, which will prevent people or give them some protection.
Well, that's what we're trying to use against you, just so that you'll go away. Because how do you feel again? And I know I might be going over a topic, but just I mean, you have look at I'm here recording in a room with a mattress behind me because I've had to make a makeshift studio because my regular access to Samana, as I said at the start, well, that's just not there because basically the world has ground to a halt. Do you not feel some sort of guilt or shame that you have caused this to a world population of almost 8 billion people?
I don't want to create any fake news or anything. I feel I've answered that. I don't want to. I don't feel like I have caused that. From
So
my
basically,
perspective, I
okay,
don't
to
feel like.
sum
I
up
feel
what
like
you're saying is that sorry to interrupt, but you're saying that anything that's come out of this. It's more it's our reaction to it, and whether
Reaction. There you go.
and it's because of human habits, characteristics, or traits, or whatever that we've developed over the last generations, and you're just exploiting them. But it's not really what you came here to do, in a sense. Is that true?
Exactly, exactly. Again, you said, the reaction. It's a complete overreaction. There's panic. People hear something new. It's a worst case scenario. Panic. Yes. Again, there's deaths. There's vulnerable people being in hospitals, and it just causes panic. I think it's unnecessary. And again, listen. Am I sorry for it? I suppose I am, because in effect I am the cause. But again, it's not something that I wanted to happen. But I think there's an overreaction. As I said about Spanish flu there a few minutes ago, that didn't get the same reaction. Well, until it was too late, I suppose. But listen, I'm not here to make enemies. Okay, not exactly here to make friends, as you can tell. But
Okay. Whether people believe you're having a big impact on the death rate or not, and obviously some human beings dispute how deadly you are, but there's no doubt the effect you're having on human society. You're changing that completely, and I just want to
I
talk
think
about
I'm changing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and perhaps maybe we'll come out of this for the better, and maybe you'll make human beings better. And I do just want to say, I know obviously behind every death, and we can throw out figures in terms of whether it's a high death rate, a low death rate, or even overall figures of death. Behind every death, it is a tragedy, and there is somebody suffering. And I just want to get that out here on Wrong
Okay.
Ways Columbia
That's
cast.
not a. Listen, just should you go back where you meant your mattress? You need to change that. A hive of bed bugs just waiting to happen in there.
Well, I mean, another
Sorry, but go
result
on.
that
Listen, I
I had.
know it's
Yeah,
something I know about. But
okay. So I know you're probably lying in wait, but look at this is another result of your actions. I had to, move house in panic, basically, an emergency move because of what your actions caused here in terms of a lockdown. And
and for the better, for the worse.
well, I think I might have to move house again now, based on what you're telling me about that mattress.
Okay, well, listen,
Yeah,
listen. If I could, if I could offset that financially, I would. But I don't travel with any plastic.
bucket loads of cash around. Yeah, I guess. Just one thing I want to touch on there. People say, and obviously you seem to have a bit of a graw. That's an Irish word. A bit of a love for human beings, and you really like to
I
get
like that
under
word.
our skin.
Hmm.
You can hang around on other areas for a while, and inanimate objects as well. That's true. You've no problem hanging around for an amount of time in other areas.
I do. I don't want to. Listen, the last thing I want to do is be on a kitchen table for whatever 7 or 8 hours a day. Like, I want to be moving around. If I can't go anywhere, it's my next option. I'm always looking for a host. I want to be moving. I need to be moving. As I said, I'm trying to see as much of this world as I can before I reach the peak,
Okay. And
I
by the way,
suppose.
again, well done with that. I mean, while you're going around and seeing every corner of the world that most people can only dream of seeing, you've interrupted the travel plans for, again, hundreds of millions of people. You're
True.
getting the places to yourself. I mean, everybody wants to go to a beach and have it to themselves, and you're going to probably get that.
I've actually hurt myself in that respect, and not necessarily the travel plans. You were on with travel plans, but I know a lot of sporting events have been cancelled. The Wimbledon tennis championships have been cancelled,
Yeah. So, I mean, my point
and
is, you seem a bit of a boring busybody. I was going, I'm going to use another word there, beginning with C and ending with T, but you seem a bit boring. I mean,
crowd. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
there you go. You've cancelled all these sporting events, forced people to be locked up in their houses, and it also seems that you're not a big fan of alcohol. I don't know how you seem to be thriving in Ireland at the minute. So, are you a bit of a square? It seems like you'd be better in a monastery or something, or in a closed community.
I've talked about leading your life healthy. I might be what you call a term a virus, but I still like to be healthy. I don't listen. I don't drink. The sporting aspect has really hurt me. I like my sport. That's my only vice, if you want to call it a vice. I'm a big tennis fan. I mentioned the Wimbledon Championships earlier on. That's my biggest disappointment. I didn't realize the disruption it would actually cost. I enjoy sport, like and this is my big bugbear. Like I didn't realize all these things were going to be cancelled. This is one thing I wanted to happen is when I travel the world, especially around May, I was going to catch the French Open, then maybe head over to Wimbledon. This is one of my plans I had for when I was going to travel around the world. I could catch some of my favorite sporting events. But now, listen, I'm at a bit of a quandary myself because I've seen enough of the world. Now I'm probably ready to get home. I miss my sport. A few pound on the horses as well, and listen, they're cancelling all them all over the place. So I don't know what to do with myself. I guess again the pubs, the restaurants are all closed. Even though I don't drink, I do like to kind of venture in from time to time, hear conversations, move around, get close to people. You know.
I'm getting the feeling from you so that maybe you're thinking of perhaps taking a little bit of a break and coming back
Yes.
when there's a
Yeah.
more opportune time.
Pretty much, and listen, I know this destruction I've caused, and like when I come back the next time, to me it shouldn't be as disruptive. And when I left the lab in November, I wanted to get around the world as quick as I could. Okay, I've learned my lesson because it's to my detriment because things are being cancelled. I can't even go into a bar, as you said, in Ireland at the moment, just to see what the crack is and get a bit of the Céad Míle Fáilte from the Irish. But
Yeah, what you'd be saying is you're going to be. It's like that when you're a rookie traveler, you're kind of running around and you only spend a day here and a day there. But when you're a more mature traveler, you like to
exactly.
take in and have
Exactly.
these
Listen. Yeah.
experiences.
Exactly.
Is
I'm,
that
I'm,
what you're
I'm I'm
saying?
like any other living organism, as I pointed out earlier on. Like I'm mature and I now know what not to do. Again, I didn't mean to cause so much havoc, but I didn't realize I would cause so much havoc, so much cancellations to even general life. I'm not seeing anybody anymore. Like I want to get to know people. As I get close to people, hear their conversations. But now listen. I'm in places. I'm going to places now, and all I see is maybe a couple of wild animals in walking down the street. Or it's not fun. The part of traveling.
Yeah, on that wild animals and even we'll say domesticated animals, there has been some talk that you do like dogs and cats, but then I've heard on the contrary that you don't.
I hate cats. Love dogs. Cats are
Okay,
evil. Listen, cats are worse than viruses. Trust me.
but
I've
would
been
you hang
I've been
around?
inside cats. I know what goes on in there.
So you probably get kind of regurgitated with their hairballs and stuff, do you? Yeah,
Pretty much. Yeah. I don't have much of an effect on them, but I tried. I might get the ire of your cat owner if they listen to this, but
yeah. The one cat owner.
pricks.
You do like dogs,
Love dogs. I love the dogs.
but
Yeah.
you don't
Um,
tend to have any effect on them though in terms of
no, and I won't. Listen, it's not something I know how I can move around, and dogs, what? I get stuck in a city. Do you see dogs taking flights that much? Like, do you see dogs, getting
with
trains,
some
getting
people.
buses?
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't make any sense. Cats was just for for a bit of blackguardism, to be perfectly honest. But dogs, I like to be around them. They're good kids. I like them.
Another point there. You mentioned the lab that you started out in. Now, is your memory a little bit dodgy because humans and some of these, experts believe that you might have started in the forests of China and hung around with a bat. You were a bit of a Batman fan. Well, not a Batman fan, but an
No,
actual
it
Bat
wasn't.
fan.
No, in this lab, it wasn't just a kind of one of those center for disease control. It was, the diseases were tested on kind of lab animals, and one of those was a bat. Bats just need to look at me, and I'm in there. Okay, and then I can, that was my way out. So they were testing on bats, different viruses. I wasn't on the radar, but I got in there, and I kind of moved into, I can't remember the name of this. You might call it patient zero, but it was a lab technician. He happened to live in Wuhan. The lab's on the outskirts of Wuhan. But I leapt into him, and that's how I made my way to Wuhan city, I suppose city center, if you want to call it, or and then onto the wet markets. And again, listen, that's how it all began for me. I knew that I had the right genetics or makeup to be able to easily pass from human to human. So I said, once I got out of that lab, then I'm home free.
It does kind of seem, though, that perhaps you overestimated the readiness of the human population for your arrival, and we completely underestimated the impact that you would have, certainly in the first few weeks. That would seem to be a fair call. Would you agree?
Yeah, it wouldn't be wrong. I think
Well, did you
humans
think we
definitely
were a little bit more
underestimated it.
intelligent than we've turned out to be
Yeah,
in
listen,
this case?
I'm young. I suppose I suppose the worst type of viruses are the immature ones. Maybe they thought I wasn't actually that intelligent. I was just a bit of a I don't
You're a bit
know.
of a bio, yeah, having a go, I guess, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. Listen, I'm glad you said I didn't want to use that term, but pretty much
Just a
it.
couple of final questions, by the way. Face masks. When you see face masks, does it make you giggle, or do you think, oh, that's an effective thing?
I see it as a challenge. There's idiots who wear for face masks more than once. And that's definitely not a challenge, but I think it's comical. I think it's listen, face masks, yeah, they have a bit of an effect, like gloves, but I said I see it as a challenge. I said these guys don't want me around. I'll try and get in there, and for the most part, I do. So if some of your listeners are wondering whether or not to use face masks, I wouldn't. To be perfectly honest, it's I'll get there one way or another. You know.
Okay. Also, a bit of a hippie. You kind of believe in self cleansing and stuff like that. You're not a big fan of soap.
Sorry, were you breaking up there, Brendan?
I was just saying you're a bit of a hippie. It
Oh,
seems that you're into self cleansing of the body,
yeah,
of the
yeah,
skin.
you could say that. Yeah, yeah. No,
You,
that's
you don't
yeah.
like
But
soap.
listen, I don't like tags, to be perfectly honest. But if you wanna apply a tag, that would be one of them. I could consider myself a hippie.
Because you
Yes,
just don't like soap, bit unkept in a sense. But you're
pretty
self
much.
cleansing.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, soap, hand sanitizer. Yeah, I'm not for them, to be perfectly honest. So I do like to kind of be a bit more rough and ready. You look like someone who kind of uses soap on a tri daily basis.
I'm
If
trying to
that's
do it more these days. Yeah, indeed.
yeah. So listen, if you don't want me near or if you don't want me around, this is it's an option. But again, I look for that opening. I don't say, okay, listen, he's washed his hands. I better
Yeah.
leave him alone. I'll come back. I'll come back. Keep washing your hands.
Okay.
Okay. If you don't want me, keep washing your hands. All right.
Well, as I say, God loves a trier, so yeah, you stick at it.
God,
Another
who's a
question you
God fella?
mentioned. Yeah, well, it's one of these things here that people kind of go along with. Some people on the planet.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Okay.
just you
Flat
mentioned
earthers, are
Donald
they?
Trump.
No. Okay.
Well,
That's a different type of idiot altogether.
well, we know where you come from. Then, so on the religious question, now I want to get on the political question. You mentioned Donald Trump. For some people, Donald Trump is a god. For some other people, he's quite the opposite. But people believe you're a bit of a socialist in terms of well, the way the world is changing. Uh, are you?
Uh, it's not what I set out to do. I wouldn't lean either left or right, or I'm passive. I kind of go with the times. But political? No, I wouldn't be political, Brendan. I don't want you to kind of again. I know you're looking for sound bites um, that can be passed up. But I'm not a political person. I don't have any goals outside of selfish want to see the world type goals. Listen, I've read tabloids, fake news as you call it. One wrong word and then I'm back in the headlines again. Well, I say back in the headlines. I'm constantly in the headlines. I don't even know what other news you guys have these days, but I don't want to give you any ammunition to kind of stamp on me even further. So no, I'm not socialist. I'm not a liberalist. I'm just Alan.
Okay. Well, because I was going to make the point that if you are socialist, but you're saying you're not, of course, but there's some people who may be of that persuasion, believing that you are going to force humanity into a more socialist society, and that will spell the end of your reign because it was really free market capitalism and the free movement of people that gave you this prominence and has given you this prominence.
It's giving me this platform, I suppose you're trying to say there. You're breaking up, even though I can see you right
Yeah.
across the table.
Okay.
Well, if you
I'm keeping my social distance from you, a good 2 meters, they say. So,
true. It's just hard to hear you behind that mattress sometimes. Okay, so I need to get you to repeat yourself. Um, No, no, no. That's no. It's not true. It's not what I intended. I see where you're going. I think society has has gone in that direction over the last few weeks. Is it driving me out? We talked earlier on. I'm finding it difficult to kind of maneuver these days. So maybe it is driving me out. Maybe I'm turning the world into a socialist.
Just a final question, then, because people would be anxious to know about your future. And in fairness, I mean, our intention was to get answers, but we're probably going to leave this with more questions. But in terms of your movement now, you're like opposite, whereas the birds fly south for the winter, you seem to be flying south from the northern hemisphere's summer into the southern hemisphere's winter. Is that true? Are you kind of going to be staking out further ground in the deeper south of South America and in
Well,
Australia and New Zealand?
I've touched on those areas. I'm not comfortable in those climates at the moment, but it is an option. I don't like what has happened over the last few months. I don't like the way the world has become. I'm some sort of target. I'm a target for everybody now. This target they cannot see, or as that great president or not so great president has alluded to, the invisible disease. Lovely word, disease, isn't it? Like, would you like to be called a disease, Brendan? I doubt you would.
I've
Um,
been called worse,
that's
in fairness.
Yeah, and I can call you worse. Listen, whether I'll venture south, I don't even know. I don't see the point at the moment. I can't even get out of onto a street. I see nobody. I can't go anywhere. Just I'm stranded in a way. I see that my end could be in sight unless things change. I would hope that these kind of quarantine or lockdown, as you call them, regulations or rules or whatever, get eased in the next few weeks, and then I could plan a bit better. I know now that the elderly and is it these, I suppose, unhealthy or people with underlying health conditions, I know they're vulnerable. So maybe my best target is to move around in healthy bodies. So listen, this could be, again, don't quote me on this, but
But
it's an
you're
option.
going on the record with this. Okay, but you are going on the record. We've
Oh,
heard there that.
I thought this was just a rehearsal.
Well, no, no, I'm telling
Well,
you, Al.
do I sign something? A waiver, or I need to sign something? Don't I need to sign something?
Well, we'll talk about that off the record. Yeah, we
Right.
won't hang you out to dry, although that might be what a lot of people want us to do with you.
Okay.
But is it a case, and I know you're not always thinking about the human reaction to your actions, but is there a danger that we get lured into a false sense of security then in the coming months if we think that you've kind of gone away and then bang, you're back with a vengeance? Or, as you said, you might just hang around kind of healthier people and not really have much effect in terms of the overall health of people.
That's my plan. Maybe I might lie low for a few months and come back, and I might be a bit more aggressive this time. But it's not what I want to do. I've only 6 weeks left from what I set out to do back in November. 6 weeks was my plan, but I thought I've had more of the world covered by then. But obviously, I didn't expect this human intervention or government interventions to kind of slow down my progress, and so my 6 weeks could be pushed out to a couple of months. But I could take this two ways. I could just kind of lie low and come back, and more of a retaliation or more revenge for keeping me kind of suppressed, or I can just go underground, like let this ride its course out, go back to my lab, and I can stay in a jar for another 100 years.
You're leaving the options open, basically.
I'll leave my
Uh,
options open. Exactly,
okay,
exactly.
so I guess I'll borrow from the great Welsh poet Dylan Thomas that, well, you won't go gentle into that good night just yet. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I can borrow a quote myself, from Arnold Schwarzenegger. You've seen his movies. Um,
Yeah.
I might be back. I think is what he says. So that is an option.
Look, we're going to leave it there. As I said, you've probably left us with more questions than giving us clarity on things. But
What like a good episode of EastEnders.
indeed, well, it's we'll have the outro there. Boom, 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 boom. People in the UK and Ireland will get that. Alan, known to most of us as coronavirus or COVID-19 or COVID-19 in Espanol. I
Yeah.
appreciate the time you've taken to talk to us. I know, as I said at the beginning, you are very busy and you've got interests all over the world now. I think what there's some countries saying that you're not there, they're probably not telling us the truth. Thanks for joining us on Wrong Ways Columbia Cast, our first guest indeed of the new emergency podcast that you forced
Oh,
me into
no
making.
problem. Oh, again, not my want. Yes, no, but thank you very much. Listen, thank you for having me. I hope you can have me again another time. If again, it depends on how I see things in a few weeks. But listen, we might touch base again.
And I must
Okay.
finish on the point that I do feel there's an overlap maybe between yourself and Donald Trump. You seem to not take responsibility for anything. You say it's not your problem when everything happens. So maybe you could join up with Donald Trump and help
Well,
him in his
listen,
re-election campaign.
we're viruses after all. You know, we work the same. We have the same kind of mentality. We have the same opinions. We have the same political outlook. Even though I'm not political, if that would make sense.
Well,
But
lots of things don't make sense these days, so that's probably a good way to leave it. Alan, COVID-19, coronavirus, call you what you will, but it's been a fascinating insight. We appreciate the time you've taken. But that is our lot for this episode of Wrong Ways Columbia Cast. You can make contact with me via the Facebook handle at Wrong Way Corrigan, the blog, and the Twitter handle at WWay Corrigan. Almost forgot those. You're not on Twitter, Facebook, social media?
I tweet. I don't want to give up my handle because you know what will happen. Abuse. I've seen
Yeah.
the abuse. I've seen the trolls. Yeah. Listen, I'm
So you
on.
hide behind a pseudonym. So
I do.
yeah.
I do indeed. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you off the air.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Let's leave it there. All the best.
Okay.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.